Hey, welcome back for another episode. Today's topic is troubleshooting. So I'm not sure if you remember a while back, I installed a Carplay in my wife's car. This was supposed to be an early Christmas present. But I had a lot of folks ask me about the Carplay experience, so I decided to write a review or video of it. So with that, I had Carplay that I installed in my cars, my MR2 and my Accord in 2020. And I thought it would be awesome to do the same for my wife. She was kind of cheeky looking at my handiwork, and she has a 2014 Toyota Highlander, and she was itching to get CarPlay herself. So I decided, you know what, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, anytime I start off a process, I love doing my research. Why? Because I had no idea what I was going to get and what the price point was going to be. And so I like to pick things that aren't the best and the most expensive or the cheapest and the worst functioning, but something that has a great balance between the two. I love value. So when I looked everywhere, I was trying to find a custom solution that would actually fit the Highlander. And it wasn't as easy as it was for my cars because my wife's Highlander has a bigger interface for the screen. And so I needed something custom to fit there. Now, in looking everywhere, I actually found a few options that worked actually pretty well. And the hardest part that I did find when I actually did do an installation myself was the wire harness. So anytime you're hooking up any type of audio or video, especially in a vehicle, the wire harness can be the most challenging piece to put in place. Why? Because it essentially hooks all the audio video interface details into the actual vehicle. So you need to know not only how the car works and what its wires actually do, but what actually happens for the electronics you actually have as well. So you have to look at two interfaces and you have to connect them in such a way that everything works seamlessly. And so anytime you're actually doing an installation, that is one of the most important parts and probably one of the most painful, because that's where you actually have to do your homework. Now, I was fortunate enough to find a company by the name of Phoenix Automotive. They're out of California, and looked through their solutions, and they had two custom solutions for the Highlander, which I really liked. The first one was a solution that drew my eye immediately because it was almost a Tesla-style interface for the vehicle, which I thought would be really neat. A really long screen and just made everything look high-tech. But then I saw a second option. The second option had a smaller screen, but it fit a little bit better with the existing dash. And believe it or not, I actually went with the smaller of the two. And the reason being was the heating and the air conditioning were actually switched to a digital interface. And the way that I looked at it is, if there were ever any issues with the screen, I would not want my wife to lose the functionality of the heating and the air conditioning. So I decided to go with something that did not interfere with those particular mechanisms. So after I put the order in, configured everything, picked a pretty top of the line unit. This is a Android head unit, but it actually supports CarPlay. So I actually picked an option that was an Android interface, but there was an upgrade for it for CarPlay. So that's what I went with. And I ordered this on December 7th, 2020. So I'm thinking, hey, you know what? I have plenty of time for it to get here and install it in time for Christmas, and that'll be awesome. And it didn't happen. It didn't even happen in time for New Year's. We actually I didn't get the Android head unit until January 4th, which was a Monday. And at this point, I told my wife what was coming along, but it just had to be kind of a delayed Christmas / more around the birthday time frame. So it took a month to get, which I really wasn't a big fan of. It actually shipped all the way from China, which I did not realize. I thought it was gonna be coming from California. So with all the shipping delays they have with USPS, that was a challenge for me. So with that, I'm thinking, all right, everything's in good shape. You saw one of the earlier videos on CarPlay. That's the day I actually hooked everything up. And everything was about 85% functional. But the steering wheel interface was not. And this was something that was a little bit of a burner for me, because I wanted everything to work. In my Accord, the steering wheel controls work, and I can't tell you how convenient that is to be able to raise and lower the volume and to change tracks. And I wanted the same thing for my wife's truck. I mean, it's probably about 10 years newer than my vehicle. So that's what I decided I was gonna do. So this is where the challenge actually happened. And the hard part was that when I actually was shipped the radio head unit itself, it came with no instructions whatsoever. There was no specification. There was no information as far as how to hook up any of the wires. And fortunately, I've done this before, so I had a general idea of how things were going to hook up, but it was all supposed to be plug and play, and unfortunately, it was not. So this was a problem. I called up tech support right away, and in this case, I couldn't actually call them up. You had to make appointments. So I made appointment number one. For the very next day for that Tuesday, and it was a no-show. So I'm kind of a little bit more livid now. I was like, all right, I made an appointment. No one showed up. What's the problem? So I made a second appointment for the second day. Fortunately, I actually got someone on the phone. And in speaking with them, they weren't actually really able to help out. The only thing they told me was, it looks like you might have an issue with the wiring harness, which that's what I thought because not all the cables were plugging up and I didn't have a specification or instructions. And so they sent me some information that I actually found myself online, which wasn't a big help. And they said they were going to escalate the claim. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to escalate the claim. I'm going to hear back something in 48 hours. I did not hear anything back. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a good feeling and I'm not very happy. This is everything. For waiting as long as I was, it was supposed to be straightforward, simple, and I thought just a breeze to do. And unfortunately, it was not. So I decided to talk to my wife, told her what the issue was, and I was going to make one more appointment. And I made one more appointment, and that was a no-show as well. So out of 3 appointments that I made, 2 were no-shows. Now, if I had to work a 9 to 5, and I had to take off in order to work on my wife's truck, I'd be even more pissed because that would have been time wasted. Fortunately, I had some more flexibility. But think about that. Customer service is a big, big important thing. If you mess that up, you lose a customer, and they were about to lose me. So I pretty much asked my wife, I said, hey, you have about 80% of the functionality there, but working this and playing around with Carplay and everything is nice, but not having the steering wheel controls is a deal breaker. It's a deal breaker. If my wife couldn't have that, I'm going to have to find something else that works because it makes no sense for her to have that functionality there and it not to work. So at this point, I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do one more thing. I reached out to customer service since I wasn't having any luck with tech support. And again, tech support, 2 out of 3 the appointments were no-shows with tech support. So I reached out and I pretty much gave him a nastygram and I said, you know what? I'm very dissatisfied with the customer service that I've been receiving. I haven't had any help whatsoever from tech support. I'm not even sure like where they are because they didn't even show up for the appointment. So just refund my order. I don't want to do it anymore. And fortunately, I had one customer representative really step it up. And if you've heard any of my other videos above and beyond, this woman, Ruby Chen, saved the sale. She saved the sale. And I'll tell you what she did because I appreciate it so much. She reached out to the manufacturer in China and got the specifications for what they did to put the wire harness together and what should have been the instructions included in my package. And so I didn't notice this at first. So I kept getting sent a ticket, and the ticket isn't something I could access because I did not have an account on, I think it's Front Desk. So every time they sent me something, I was like, I can't see it. And then finally I looked a little bit lower and I saw that there were a few photos incorporated as well as a video. And I looked through this on the last day. I said, this is the last thing I'm going to do. If it does not work today, it's going back. And my wife pretty much agreed. She's like, if the steering wheel controls don't work, it's not as useful as I'd want it to be. So I went in, I looked at all the wires, the interfaces. There were some wires that weren't supposed to be hooked up. And there were some other wires that I just hadn't seen or noticed that did need to be hooked up. And I followed those specifications, put everything together, and voila, it all worked. And I was so ecstatic that the steering wheel controls actually worked. And I had been tinkering around with it enough that I was able to customize the controls. So when I did customize the controls, I was able to use some functionality that I didn't even know the truck actually had before. I had the ability to do short press and long press on each of the steering wheel controls. So not only could I raise and lower volume, change tracks, answer a call and close a call, I could actually move around in CarPlay by actually holding the call button down, and that could actually be my back button, and holding the end button down for a call, and that could be my enter button. And I could also use the same controls for switching tracks to actually move around the CarPlay interface, which was very, very neat. Now, with all that considered, I just want to kind of highlight the customer experience as far as what could this experience have been. This experience could have been 5 stars. Again, I was a little upset about the shipping, but just getting everything and being able to put it in and just be ready to go would have been great. Unfortunately, there were no instructions. There were no videos as far as, how to actually do the installation or anything. So I was pretty much left in the dark. So if it wasn't me on something like this, I could see someone just not even configuring with tech support or anything and just say, I don't want this. I'm going to give it back. So if I gave an overall rating for Phoenix Automotive, on my experience, tech support, I'm sorry, like 0 stars out of 5. I couldn't do it. For Ruby Chen, 5 stars out of 5, because again, you made my wife's Christmas present, so thank you. And as far as the Phoenix Automotive experience as a whole, I'd say I'd give it 3 out of 5. If they do everything they need to do so that it's as little trouble as humanly possible to just make everything plug and play, that's the difference maker. If someone would have put and verified there were instructions in the package, that is a difference maker. So the big thing I'd say, as far as to improve what you're already doing, be a difference maker. Just add that stuff and make sure it's there so that people aren't confused and lost, or else you're going to lose a lot more customers. So this is my video review for Phoenix Automotive. Again, big shout out to Ruby Chen. Thank you again. And again, I'll show you bits and pieces, if you haven't seen those in this video already, of how that installation went and how some of the new functionality works. So I hope you appreciate this segment. Again, if you're looking for CarPlay or something with a hands-free control, especially for a newer model vehicle that you need something with a slightly bigger screen, I would encourage you to check out Phoenix Automotive. Again, I'm happy with the way everything finally turned out. It was just a little bit painful in getting there. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.